Hi everyone, welcome to the Sahaj Tales podcast. This is episode 3 with my guest Nourah and AlMaiman.
Hi, how are you, Sahaj?
I'm good. So, how you been doing?
Well, I'm really good, and I'm also excited to be on your podcast. Three is my lucky number, and I'm glad that I'm your first female guest. I said I would mention that in the episode, so
Yeah,
there's me mentioning it.
yeah, that's true. It's really cool as well. It's like it's nice to have it's nice and I'm really excited to have a talk with you about many things, and it's amazing.
I'm
that you
glad we
have
have
the-
this experience
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. So, tell me, Nourah. So let me ask you. So, how things when you were a child?
You mean growing up?
Yeah, growing up.
So I was born and raised in the States, and I
Okay.
also lived in Saudi a little bit when I was younger. Growing up, I was very, how would I say, I was very intuitive, and I like to ask stuff, and I like to know about things. Sometimes it wasn't really something that I should know about when I was at that certain age, but I was always interested in topics. I'm a generational kid, which means both my parents are gapped by 12 to 10 years, and then
Okay.
I'm young as well, and then my brother is 10 years younger than me. So we had a lot of like themes in the house going on. We had a lot of topics that we talked about that were kind of interesting to be exposed to at a certain age, and it got me very, I say, cultured. When I traveled, I wasn't shy or embarrassed of just asking and talking and having conversations with people and learning things. And I think that also helped me in wanting to expand my skills. So I would test anything and everything. Like
Yeah.
even if I was interested in something, but my parents would think it wasn't something that I would probably pursue as a career in the future, I still would do it. I'd try it out,
Okay.
which meant that I had a good like knowledge of certain skills and certain hobbies and
Yeah.
passions, and I got to explore, and that I think meshed well. So by the time I got to the advanced stages, high school, and then obviously choosing what to study in college and stuff, I was capable of choosing something that mixed a lot of what I already knew. And I think the arts, as a passion and also as a profession, helps you with that, and it makes you very emotional, and it
Hmm.
makes you very
Yeah.
empathetic, and then you get to know people's backgrounds, and you understand people's styles of delivery, and you don't just come in wanting things done. You know that sometimes people have limitations, and it's because I got exposed to different types of people that I understood those limitations and understood
Yes,
how to work
yes,
with them.
that's true. So basically, what you're saying is that you are not afraid to take risks when you were younger, or like was it,
Yeah.
and has it changed now, or is it like something?
I mean, I was called a tomboy, although I didn't see that as relevant or necessary. I took risks, yes, and I still choose to take risks, but I think now I'm more aware of like consequences. But when I was younger, it's like because you have your parents on your side, you don't really know that if something doesn't go well, like in the future when you're an adult, you have to handle that mess. And I think some of the things of me just going in and out of things maybe was a bit tough on my family, and I didn't realize that. So for example, like I love soccer and I play soccer, but I did think I was going to pursue it professionally, and I only did it for like 2 months, and I was like, okay, great, that's it, I know soccer now. Same goes with like ballet. Gymnastics, though, I was very dedicated to. I was dedicated to until I was like 16 years old, and then I had an accident.
Okay.
So I fractured my neck permanently.
It's really sad.
Yeah, it is. But then that's at least I know that I took that further.
Yeah.
But I think if I have children, I would definitely let them kind of approach things the same way, because it's better for kids to make those kind of errors and mistakes to know what they like and not. I'd rather be like, yeah, go for it, even if it's for a week. At least you've done it, and there's no regret.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like when I was a kid as well, I used to try on many different things. I mean, my mom used to always say that, "Oh, Sahaj, you should try so many different things, but you never stuck to one thing." And then, like, I made a conscious decision when I was younger, like I was 17, where I pursued acting and my work in entertainment. So, like, more and more, and started getting into it more and more. I stuck to it. I stuck to something for the first time in my life, and it's like it's working out. I think it's good. I mean, I'm having good experiences. I'm learning a lot. It was rewarding in the end, especially because I felt when I was younger that like if I stuck to things, would I really be getting the benefits out of
Mm.
it? Maybe, maybe not. But you know, now that I've experienced good things also, I can tell for sure that with consistency, you can always get benefited in some form or another, you know?
The thing is, if you look at it like acting, performing, like the arts, it's a variety of masks and roles and responsibilities people take. So the consistency is important when it comes to like formality of stuff. But then having that scattered mind or that interest in wanting variety, it helps you in what you're creating and what you're developing. Because if you're just very standard or fixed, it's not. It'll be monotonous. Your art would be the same. Whatever you put out there would be the same. So yes, I know a lot of people, especially at a young age, get scolded at the fact that they don't know what they want or they don't have a plan. But at the end of the day, sometimes people with the best plan and the best time management, I don't know, something like COVID happens and they find themselves altering everything that they've built their lives about. So I think it's okay to have a little bit of inconsistency as long as you have some control over it.
Yeah, that's true. Talking about the arts and entertainment, we are now moving into our main topic, which is like professionalism in the sphere of arts and entertainment, and everything, like basically dance, drama, music, even the art world, if you know about it. So like actual paintings and stuff. So what do you think? What's your like general view on professionalism and all and all of that regarding this?
Well, I mean, if I tie it to the point I just made, the professionalism is necessary in terms of like understanding the skill set of the team with you, knowing how to put in this good administration kind of facilitation, knowing how to be, I don't know, up to the tasks and the deadlines. However, some people come into it with this, it's a facade of professionalism. So they think, well, I've done this many plays. I might as well like just do my own thing and I know it all. I think you need training and I think you need background. You need some form of certification that just supports you, something that you can stand on, because expertise is great, but even the most famous actors, sometimes they get to a point where they're challenged with a role or they're challenged with a project. And it's then where they realize, oh, this is when I need that academic backing or that academic training. And then they go and they pursue it. And I feel like, unfortunately, for me, I speak like on a variety of levels. So I've done projects in the US, I've done projects in Saudi, I've done projects in the UAE. In the future, I'll be doing some projects in France and Ireland and Germany. Those were postponed because of COVID, but they're still like in the back. For me, I've noticed that there are a variety of standards that people either go by or totally push aside. And so, unfortunately, when you end up working with so many types of people, you start to notice like people's intentions. And some people are just in it for themselves. And I think we were saying, ahead of recording the podcast, we were talking about how some people go into this and they don't have generosity. And the generosity isn't necessarily just like, dropping money. It's really focusing on a person's value and growth in a project that's far from your own. Because as a director, as a writer, as a production manager, as a head of something, you will always be recognized because you're the brainchild behind it all. But when you're able to put a team together and have everyone come out of this project so different from what they were in the beginning and tell you that, then you know that you've been generous and you've given them growth with your art. So unfortunately, people come in with selfish intentions. People sometimes don't even stick to their promises, which for me is a big no-no. I made it a point that I would never do a project in the Middle East specifically, because that's when I saw it happen more, where people's rights were taken from them. So I made it a point to never do a project where my people wouldn't get paid, my team wouldn't get paid, even if it meant me not getting paid, or even if it meant me covering from my own pocket because we didn't break even or the show wasn't as successful as expected, etc. So for me, that is great, and it's an incentive, and it helps people realize that, yes, I'm putting energy and time into something, and I am having something come my way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't really pay the checks that people are expecting. There's no millions and trillions and billions, but you pay in kind. You pay in advice. You pay in giving people better opportunities with other people and showing people how to collaborate better and just creating a really tight network
Yeah.
where people grow and learn from each other. And I think being selfish nowadays really doesn't help. And eventually you can see it in the art. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like there are times where I see a production and I'm just like, something is very disconnected between me and this. And then I find out eventually from like the team members or the cast that there was a lot of like background noise, there were a lot of fighting, there was a lot of, I don't know, backstabbing, naysaying, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, that's what it was. The toxicity for some reason or the other seeped on the stage. And that's why me as an artist, as someone who loves the arts, couldn't connect with that project. So you just got to make sure that you don't put in that bad energy and then people will just enjoy it all.
So when you say toxicity and like the fact that this, like people who will sort of have created this sort of bad energy between them, and where does it come from, and like what brings it together? I mean, I don't know why. What I feel, it's like there's this saying. Okay, it's like birds of a feather flock together. But is it like, or like attracts like? Is it something like that, or or does it develop over time?
So if I think of the toxicity or how it seeps, sometimes I generally have seen it happen where people have the best of intentions, but the recognition plays with their mind, and sometimes they're told, if you go in a certain direction, or if you talk to a certain person, or if you work at this level, you won't be as exposed as we are. And sometimes the exposure is purely for them, not for the individual. And I've seen people fade. I've seen talented people fade, especially in the UAE. I've seen people who had such, admiration and passion just really lose interest. And you ask, where are you? What's your next project? No, I just don't want to mess with this anymore. They'll say that and they'll go and, pursue projects in India or in other countries. And for me, I feel like that's unfortunate because we're supposed to be coming together. And if I really want to pinpoint, like, you don't walk in and say, here's your toxicity. You actually have to be bringing it from something deeper. And most people who want to bully or want to control or want to just demean others and kind of take control of projects and whatnot, they're coming from some turmoil, usually from the home. A lot of people that have spoken to me on deeper levels, because I also am an art therapist, and I kind of use those skill sets to see how people can improve and just deal with, problems. Many of the people, if not, let's say 90%, many of the problems that they struggle with at home, be it with a partner or an abusive parent from their childhood, or even like just, a bad social network at work, they really struggle with their personality and they choose performance or art or projects like this to just let loose. And then they feel really appreciated for who they are. And that works with them. And sometimes they let loose and there's another level of kind of control that they accept because it's more fun and more relaxing and so far from the trauma they have that they'd rather live with that toxicity than something else. So it's hard to figure out or find a solution for it. But I think if a person's very intuitive and focuses on, how they are changing, if they notice a large change in who they are or a large gap in the people that were close to them at the beginning versus the people that are close to them now, they'll see that maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I've chosen the wrong flock, as you said.
Yeah. So no, I was saying as like, so let's think about this. You also mentioned that when projects don't go well, or they're not getting paid or something, that, see, this is what I want to raise. I want to raise a specific point. It's called regulation of artists and art in general.
Sure.
So there needs to be a regulated body which really controls, which has an element of control over everything that's going on in the UAE. I feel that, and
A union, basically.
A union, sort of, because unions are a bit tricky here.
True, that's the problem.
That's the concept. The concept of unions are tricky, because, but there needs to be some sort of regulated body to basically minimize or at the best prevent this from happening?
True. I mean, when you think about it, like I said, when you roam with your art internationally and when you see so many different types of regulations uh, across the board, you have to like pick the best options and implement them, regardless of whether it's a valid implementation or legal or not. I mean, I'm not saying go commit crimes, but let's assume it's not a common thing to pay actors for rehearsals, but you would like to do that. And you feel like, okay, you don't want to start some problem and other people get uncomfortable because, oh, you're paying your actors for rehearsals wherein I'm not. Then, pay them in kind, pay them with lunches, pay them with transportation. A union per se, we've tried many, many a times, maybe 5 failed times to put together a softer version of a union just in like the local arts community. And we tried to do it between Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai, but we were always, you know, facing problems, and they wanted us to find like a leader, or they wanted us to put together rules, and they wanted us to copy things from abroad. And also, the unfortunate thing is that some of the people who were trying to, head the campaigns with us were very famous actors in the region. And we were like, well, if you've been doing this for 20 plus years and it's still difficult, we're only trying, but we're not going to be surprised if people reject us or reject our ideas. At the end of the day, still, you have to go with your conscience. And if you feel like you can't give the same way others can, or you would rather give but not put others in a like tight circumstance, you just have to do it right for yourself.
Yeah. So I'll add another question. Do you think the unions have been rejected because of the fact that it is protecting them, or do you think it's rejected because they want a flow of money and people who can be outsourced in an unregulated way?
I mean, at the end of the day, anything that fails, usually anything that starts off well and starts to fail or fizzle out, money comes into play. Be it the lack of money or too much money, plus authority and control. So what my main complaint at the last time we had tried to form a union, was that we have a lot of talent here, and we are outsourcing for example, visuals. For some TVCs, there's a lot of outsourcing. I will be dubbing in Saudi accent certain commercials that I know that I could have actually been the lead in, or I know 10, 20 actresses that could have played the role with the perfect Saudi accent, whether they were Saudi national or not. But there's just something cheaper about outsourcing that works. And for us, we're not saying we want triple or quadruple that amount. We just want that opportunity, and then we can negotiate things differently when things pan out better. But there's never like a consistent line to follow. And also, unfortunately, people, they get fed up. People try, and they put all their efforts into something. And then after that, they're like, look, this is going nowhere. It's really taking time from what I'm enjoying. And you'll hear the sentence, I don't know how many times I've heard it so far, but you'll hear people say like, I tried, but it's taken away from what I love. I just want to, be on stage, have fun, and forget about being paid. And then a month or two later, man, I wish I was paid. I could have covered taxi. I could have covered gas, if they drive. I was like, but see, that's the thing. You have to hold on to what you want, and you have to keep fighting for it. Yes, pursue the rest with whatever, problems are coming your way. But still, eventually, we hope that in 3 years' time, things look different than what they look like now. But I've been hearing this for the last 7 to 8 years. And so for me, I feel much comfortable when I'm working in Saudi or in the US, because I know that no matter what the situation is, everybody involved, including myself, is getting paid, is getting recognized, and that's a safe haven for us.
Yeah. So, okay. So
hard stuff.
yeah, it's true. I know it's like, it can get, a friend of mine, this was in the past, okay, this was like a couple of years back, he compared the UAE to the Wild West in terms of like the entertainment industry. So obviously,
it's like driving. I mean, a lot of people who come and drive here, they always say the reason driving is such a mess is because everybody comes with their own driving background. And I would apply the same to the arts. Everyone comes with their own art background. So however it's done back home, they want to bring it in. And so then you find yourself in a position where there are rules from A country, there's rules from B country, and you're like, but what about this country right now? Let's create a better standard. Let's create something that the other countries may want to follow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no.
sad.
So I was like again talking about that as well. That's again related to the more regulation. That's more related to regulation. For example,
True.
uh, do you should there be an actual standard of making sure that knowledge, academic knowledge, which is passed on to newer actors and other professionals, and directors and producers and all that. Uh, I feel like that needs to be regulated as well, because when that happens, there'll be more of a conveyor belt of actors and all the kinds of performers, dancers, singers, producers, directors.
Like a good
All
network.
it's not just a good network
Or a database. Like there's just people flowing with talent.
Yeah, people who are willing to do different kinds of projects and everything.
Yeah.
And the Dubai, for example, is a really multicultural city. Like, for example, like you find it's probably the most multicultural city in Asia.
Yeah.
I think, because you'll find all kinds of people here.
You'll find people from countries you haven't heard of.
Exactly. I know people say that London and New York are the biggest metropolitan cities in terms of multiculturalism, but Dubai is unlike any other city, in that sense.
Yeah.
So I feel that
with the academics.
Yeah, I feel that there needs to be regulated learning standards, and in fact, the place where I go to, I mean, it's called Studio Republic. That's something. Okay, it is not an academic place per se, but they're at least bringing out some sort of centralized learning almost for future actors and actors, and even like people who are interested in dance and music, especially these three fields. So like it is really helpful when that's available. That sort of facility is available. Now
the thing is, like when you look at like the youth, usually they consider academics very, very, very like strict, and there's like a whole policy on how it goes in schools here. And they look at like the performing arts as something extracurricular. Sometimes they add that into like the music and arts department category, but they'll do a benchmark that's very odd in terms of how like people pass or fail or get credits. But when you look at it overseas, you're actually pursuing this course or this class because you want to eventually go to Juilliard, or you want to go study at where you went, New York Film Academy. So you have a target, and you're starting off with that mindset where it's like, okay, I'm pursuing the arts because this is where I'm going. It's not a hobby. It's not something I'm doing while I'm waiting for my mom or dad to pick me up, after work. Some schools, I don't really know specific names, but I've heard that some of them are really integrating it in the program where, they'll do proper 5 classes a week. And then there are now more advanced places that are starting off as institutes and certifying and having Lambda incorporations. And so then you have the Sharjah Performing Arts Academy, which is really focusing on the 3 that you mentioned. You've got your music, you've got your arts, and you've got even your directing. And then they have different types of programs, not necessarily BAs. So they have things for you to kind of go shop around and make it very consistent. With Studio Republic, again, because I visited this space, I would like that, there's a variety. And I like that it caters to those people who want to kind of make things more professional or more consistent for themselves. So they feel like when they are included in a project, they have a background, they have expertise, they have knowledge. They're like, well, I did the following workshop with so-and-so instructor, or I'm doing the following with this instructor. And you kind of really believe someone when they put energy into advancing themselves. And when it's something that they truly do on their own. It's vocational. You choose and you want to pursue something and advance in it. You're not doing mandatory physics, maths, etc. No, you're going for acting, public speaking, things that you choose, and you're going to incorporate it in what you want to do next. And then that makes the people looking out for actors and talent, respect you more. When I know that, okay, you're an actor who's done this many workshops, who doesn't even shy away from trying different roles. You're not obsessed with being a lead, or you're not like, oh, I'm never going to work backstage. Working backstage can teach you so much more that you can implement in your next role when you want to act. So shying away is also something that I've struggled with, where I find that people are so dedicated, and once I, put in front of a position and a project, they're like, yeah, but I really want it to be on screen or on stage. Like, but you could do that in the next one. I really find that you have this skill set, and I would like to, mold it and see what you can benefit from this project. And eventually, that's how you become a well-rounded artist, when you know the ropes of all the aspects.
Yeah.
We worked on a project together, and there was so much that you were sharing. And sometimes I'd be like, okay, Sahaj, 1 second, we'll share it in a bit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that, you were pushed off for having an opinion or a suggestion, because you may be seeing it differently than the core director or associate director or whomever. So just, opening it up for communication, not shying away, and expanding and developing your personal self. Trust me, it goes a long way, because the right producers, the right directors, the ones focusing on doing better for the region, they will pay attention to that more than, how many plays you've been in and you've been the lead in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, since we are talking about, professionalism in art and all of that, I have to like boil it down to the very basic question. So, define professionalism. What is your definition of it?
Being on time. Being on time is a big one for me that I've noticed here more than ever. In Saudi, our actors clock in and clock out.
Yeah.
So let's assume a person's late. Sometimes you can't control that, but we don't wait as a team that's rehearsing. We don't wait for everyone to be there. We just start rehearsing. And then whomever is late, they just, they've clocked in, they find their way. If it's like a dance, because the last thing I had done was a dance project. So they'll just find themselves on stage. They'll figure out where we reached, and then they'll just start to move and dance and shake. But because they've clocked in, we have an admin that monitors that, and then they get whatever deduction happens because of their late attendance. For me, time management, for sure, it really triggers me and agitates me when someone doesn't pay attention to the fact they're affecting everyone's time.
Yeah.
Especially when they are the ones in control. I've been in projects where it's the leader of the project, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're late, what example are you setting for the rest? However, if someone has an issue and they explain it, just show some sort of remorse and don't make it a pattern. Because when you make it a pattern, I mean, great, if there's someone who enjoys that about you because you bring in seats, I don't want to work with you again, because you've really frustrated me throughout the whole duration of this, process, because you've never been on time and everyone sees it. Also, not favoring. Sometimes actors see that, or other, I don't want to say lesser roles, or people with different roles, they will see that, a certain director is favoring, and they will tell you, or they will approach you. And that's what brings in that toxicity, the back talking, because they'll be like, oh, why does he get away with the following when I've been here since so-and-so o'clock? And apart from the time management and obviously, not favoring, I guess really taking it seriously, regardless of your need to be there. So, for example, yes, there are those who want to be there because they want a time kill. They want to do something so different. They're just so sick of the boring routine. Then there are those who are doing it because they're really filling up a nice reel for themselves, and they want to travel and do bigger projects, and they want a good set of productions that they've been part of in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Whatever your intention is, treat the current project as if you are getting paid for it, regardless. I mean, hopefully you are, and for those who don't pay you, one day I hope they will. But apart from that, you just have to act like this matters more than anything right now in the current time. Like we're recording this. My mind can't be set on anything else, because I'm doing this with you in the moment, because people will notice it, and there's a ripple effect.
Yes.
And I think those are the three key things for me.
Okay.
Dedication, time management, and no favoritism.
Yes, that's great. That's great. So moving on to my next question. Maybe you're allowed to mention someone or here in this question, but
we said no names. Okay.
Yeah, but
we'll
who's
see,
the most?
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Who's the most professional?
Me. No, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So who's the most professional person that you have ever worked with, like that you can recall, like anyone, like
That, not because I don't want to mention names, to be honest, I have yet to find that person. Not insultingly, what I'm trying to say is that everyone I've worked with has their own pluses and minuses with professionalism.
Yeah.
And if I add them all together, they would, accumulate into one amazing professional person. But again, that's the thing. Professionalism is not hit and miss, and it's not 100% always. I've probably been at fault for things. I mean, I could be telling you that I would rather people be on time, and then maybe I had a car accident and my cast is waiting for me. But that's like an extreme case. I feel like every director or producer or person I've worked with in Dubai specifically has been hit in a certain way. They've come in with something they loved, and then there's something that they lost in the process. And they're still holding on to what they started off as, which is great. But I still think that some people have just plateaued because it's a convenience right now. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying that people fade out.
Yeah.
I've talked to directors, I've worked with directors who probably say triple what I'm saying now in terms of, what we're really upset about or what we wish we could fix. And then the next day, the people they said they wouldn't speak to or they would never work with again or they'd never take a dime from, they're just there shaking hands, posting on the socials. And for me, that's a big no. Like hypocrisy, it really gets to me. I would add that to the professionalism, because I think if you've made a point to be distant from someone professionally, it doesn't mean you have to not be their friends anymore or support them in their life or have your weekly dinners with them. It just means that you're doing it right for the rest of the people who want to improve. So I feel like I've worked with a lot of directors in Dubai, and I think that all of them have something they still want to give, and they still haven't been able to. And unfortunately, it's because of all the other problems that we discussed earlier.
So when you say like they've taken a hit, do you mean not just that? And also in terms of boxing, it's a metaphor.
Yeah.
But
I am a boxer. I used to box here nearby.
That's really cool. No. So when you say taken a hit, do you mean taken a hit in terms of people they worked with, or is it is it purely related to talent and performance level?
I would say it's this, like, it's when you come to talk about people in specific situations, it is disappointment. When you put a lot of hopes into someone's support level, and then that support changes throughout the project.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I've given you the money. Yeah, but beyond the money, I needed the marketing. I needed, an assist here or an assist there. The other hit comes into a lot of talk about, oh, I'll be there, I'll see it, I'll come, I'll go. And it's like seats are empty or seats are only full 1 out of 5 shows. And you're like thinking, where are all the people who said they'd come, or where are all the people that I've gone to see their stuff? And for me, a lot of people like to talk. And the thing is, it's not even about money. No one here is like upset about paying a certain amount to go watch a show. No. And some people, yes, they'll say, I would rather come with a free ticket. Okay, fine. We'll see how we can accommodate that. But you're not really helping people even break even. And you think that it's not going to come your way eventually. Just like you don't support my 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shows, I will also not support the rest of your shows. And I can be very vocal about that as well. Also, unfortunately, people, I don't know what it is. I don't know why. And I've been exposed to this a lot, and I've seen it. And I've seen, when I refer to like the directors I've worked with, I've seen them be really flabbergasted by things that come to them via WhatsApp or screenshots where it's like, oh, I'm not coming. Or, oh, I heard your show sucks, so why should I come? Or, oh, I've been told not to come because I won't be cast by this person anymore. I'm like, why can't you just come and watch the show? If you truly care about the arts, why are you letting all the noise around you influence your decision to just pay 100 dirhams, sometimes 85 early bird, and just watch something, experience it?
Yeah.
So these are the hits.
So these things
are
have
the
happened.
hits. These are the hits and punches.
Yeah, these things have happened really. Like, I mean, the story about, oh, if you go to watch this show, someone's not gonna cast you anymore. I mean, yeah, But we touched on toxicity earlier.
This
Yes.
is toxicity, and
This is
unfortunately, everybody yells about social media. It's true. Look at what it's doing. When someone is capable of sending a threatening message to someone who, and I know people say, "Oh, well, that person is your best friend. They shouldn't care." No, but when you think of like what will happen to them and what they really believe in their mind is impossible, they're gonna believe the person who's threatening them. They're not gonna care about you. So I've had a friend send me a message. She's like, "Oh, they said to me, if I go, I'll never be cast." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. I mean, I will not change my friendship with you.
Yeah.
I understand you're being threatened.
Yeah.
But it's sad that some people need to go to this extreme."
Yeah, I'll tell you something about a bit of myself. Okay, before we obviously met for Blind City and all that. Okay,
Mhm.
so basically, uh, what was happening was that, like, yes, when I started off, I was messing up quite a lot. Okay, I'll admit it myself. Uh, but as I was trying to learn and improve and get better at this, okay, there was a point where I also felt that they were, that I wasn't getting as much as
Opportunity.
opportunities as
hmm
I could have got,
hmm
maybe because of what others have heard of me.
The thing
Maybe.
is, at least you have that. This is what I said, looking within, self intuition. You have it in you to assess whether you are good or bad or developing. No one here has that authority to put you in a corner and be like, yeah, ignore him or ignore her. No one should do that because it's supposed to be a community.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be growing. It's supposed to be better. It's supposed to have people encouraging others.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you truly believe, again, and that goes back to the toxicity, because if you believe that the status you're in now has amplified because of the recent shows you've been part of and the recent people you've been exposed to, it's because it's a healthier environment, and that's great. That means that you are really benefiting and you're gaining something positive that's going to be rewarding for who knows how long. And that's what you as Sahaj wants from art.
Yeah.
Or that's what Nourah wants from art. Some other people to this day, they have no idea what they want from art, and their art will eventually fizzle out. Yeah.
So let's move on to the next topic, which is like expertise
Okay.
and the lack of it.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, when you say expertise, okay, I consider it's a conventional definition of sorts.
Okay.
It's like if you practice 10,000 hours of
10,000?
something, yes,
I thought it was 1,000. Okay.
it was 10,000 hours of something. In any field, anything you do, you become a master at it. You learn, yeah. So what's your take on expertise and experience in the sense that
I think I was being super fast. Like, it's the digital age. Make it 1,000 hours. No, it is 10,000. I heard that once and I thought it was ridiculous. Only because then you'll just be obsessed on timing yourself and how long you spent on this versus this. I think expertise shouldn't be obnoxiously in your face. Shouldn't be like, here are my certifications, accepted or not. No, expertise is two things tying. You have the certification, you have the validation, you have the points, but you have to keep matching it with your behavior, with your professionalism, with whatever else you're doing.
Yeah.
So if I say, oh, I have this many years in directing, show it. Start directing. I mean, unfortunately, I know we've touched a lot on theater because that's how we met. But even if we talk about the short film industry in this region, a lot of people hold on to like a film they did 5 years ago. And they just put it in every single festival and they keep submitting the same damn film. I'm like, why haven't you made another film? Short film industry is a gateway to feature film industry. But if unfortunately till now there isn't something that massive here, then just keep diversifying, make new projects, give other people opportunities. I'm sorry, I don't care if you have a master's, bachelor's, PhD, 1,020,000, 200,000 hours if you want in this field,
or even like followers, like on Instagram, or
don't even get me started on that. And then all you have is 2 short films. I'm like, you've plateaued. This is it. You've plateaued. So you want to claim the experience and the expertise, but you're not pushing it. Unfortunately, you will lack it. And then there are those who don't even have it whatsoever, like I had mentioned earlier, and they they just overdo it with the I'm here, I'm present, my followers, this, that, I fill seats, and you go and you're like, this is so boring, or this is mundane, or this is not touching me. If I'm not touched in the soul or in the heart, if I'm not moved for a second where I'm almost gonna tear, but I choose not to, then I don't feel like you're doing anything to me. Even in comedy, it's not about drama. Like, even comedy has to move you, has to make you wonder and question and appreciate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we like touched very briefly on the topic of the number of followers on Instagram. Okay, yeah. So on all that. Okay, so talking about expertise and professionalism and experience.
Okay.
How much of that has an effect on people working with each other and like? Okay, that's where I end the question because
No, I get what you're trying to ask. Like, I think when there's a group and there are those who claim it falsely, and then there are those who can't claim it legitimately, and then there are those who they're just caught up in the middle. I think eventually people start to influence and affect. If you have a project where a majority have expertise, everybody just like tries to live up to the rest.
Yeah.
If you have a project where it's reverse, then people just become, like lazy, slack off, and it's like school. The thing is, no matter how old you are, or I am, or everyone in project is, eventually when you group a bunch of people together and you say it's time to put on any type of show, video, streaming, live, everybody starts to act like a child, and you have to have a leader, a teacher. And that's when you bring out these like hits and misses and negatives and positives out of people. And then if I want to tie it into social media, unfortunately, a lot of people think that overexposing what they do or overselling what they do brings them more attention in the arts. But to me, it doesn't. I think it's overboasting. I think social media should be used for marketing. I think it's important to recognize, your honors, your rewards, but I don't think you need to tell me every single commercial you're in, because I will see those commercials. You should keep that in your roster, in your LinkedIn, in your CV. So a lot of people are like, oh my God, Nourah, you never post. And I'm like, I get tagged a lot, so you do know what I'm part of. I'll post, the dates and the times. I don't have the time personally, but secondly, I don't think I'd want to be posting nonstop. And also because most of my corporate gigs are in-house and like I've signed NDAs, I'm not even allowed to post some of those things. So what does that do to me? It makes people question sometimes like my ability. But then when I show like a private CV or a private reel or just like a Venmo link with a password, they're like, oh wow, okay.
Vimeo.
Oh, did I say Venmo?
Yes.
Oh, Venmo's the money one. Okay.
The money one, yes.
Vimeo. This is live, y'all. So I was like, I was surprised once because someone was like, oh, you really do this. That's the phrase. You really do what you've said you've been doing. I'm like, why wouldn't I? I'm like, because we don't see it on the socials. I was like, well, that's unfortunate because just a few years back, we didn't need the socials to prove anything. And it's the same with full houses. There have been a lot of full houses to a lot of shows, but 3/4 of those full houses walk out saying, I don't know what I just watched.
Are you talking about theater or film or?
All, like even like premieres of short films. They were like, wait, what was that film again?
No. So, because whenever I've gone to the junction, for example,
do people use Venmo in the UAE? Because we use it in the States.
They use it in the States. That's
why you knew it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It's like someone asked me to Venmo some money when I was running out of cash.
Yeah.
When I was running out of cash, someone asked me to Venmo money. No.
So for those who don't know, Venmo is like, it's like an e-wallet, and you can pay people back and whatever. Okay.
It's a money transferring app of sorts. It's like so.
Full houses. You were
talking product placement.
Yes. We need them to sponsor this episode. You were talking about full houses, or you wanted to
full houses, full houses. Yeah, but whenever I've gone to the junction, for example, people don't walk out of shows. Probably it's out of respect, or it's out of obligation. I don't know what it is, but like it's good. It's a good thing, To
be honest, like without specifying locations, but if we wanted to compare and contrast, I've seen people walk out of Dubai Opera and not come back. I feel like as a creative, you need to respect it from beginning to end. You just have to sit through. Sometimes you need a second watch. Sometimes you need a few hours away from it, and then you actually appreciate it. But I've heard people say, "Oh, we're not walking back." This is Dubai Opera.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes it's safer not to have an intermission. Get those butts. I was going to say the other word. Stuck in the seat until the end of the show, and then if they leave hating it, it's fine. But intermission, just like the chat, and it's surprising because like Dubai Opera has had a few really well-renowned international shows, and I'll just come back from intermissions like a quarter of the audience is gone, and I'm like, where'd they go? They just either they didn't like it, they didn't appreciate it, or it's sometimes even the wrong people who come to these things because invites are sent to anyone.
Yeah. Okay, this is something I wanted to touch on. I personally wanted to touch on, which is like I've been discussing it with my instructor at Studio Republic, and so I feel like there's a disconnect between when people move in from like the business world into the entertainment world, and the disconnect of emotion that they feel within themselves. It's as if it's suppressed, and when they're like when in classes, for example, what happens is that when they're asked to do a specific scene or a specific something very specific like breathing techniques and all that, they're unable to get into themselves because they're so, I don't know, caught up in that trauma or that they've basically shut themselves out. And I felt like this is so common in Dubai. This is a very Dubai specific thing. I know that people work in different industries around the world as well, but because of the fact that and the stresses of needing to have a visa and all of that stuff, I just feel like that kind of shutting yourself out and numbing yourself from those emotions that you feel that you're supposed to feel on a daily basis, that doesn't happen so much. And for example, when I was in class at Studio Republic, I was noticing that a lot. That look, I told my instructor, look, we've got to get the emotions out of people more than anything else, and that has to be the first focus. That has to be one of the main focuses when you're teaching this, like acting for stage or film or whatever. So
I got you. It's very hard to tap into someone's internal being, especially one that's not even aware of its own like trauma. So if I say people are very passionate and dedicated to their jobs and their visa status and stuff, it's valid. People have spouses, have children, they have family back home relying on them. And that's when they use this as an escape, when they use the art as an escape. And I think they should not only use it as an escape, but as a healing method.
Yes.
And it takes actors a lot of time to tap into something. I mean, I've worked with actors who've said to me, I really didn't feel connected to this character until way after we were done. I read the lines all over again, and I really had a different understanding. Sometimes people are so caught up in the performance of everything and the memorization of lines and just, sticking to the cues and the marks and stuff that they don't allow themselves to kind of just, gauge with the character, find a connection, tap into, like you said, the emotions. So that's why I add on to my rehearsals workshop sessions, where it's not really just about rehearsing and putting together the show, and they're very important, and it's very, and I don't allow people like to miss those. Yeah. I need a workshop where I'm breaking down the character with you individually, where I'm trying to see how you can find a connection with them. I mean, I've worked with teens who've had to play roles of molested people. I mean, thankfully they've not gone through that themselves, but they had to tap into other raw things, and we had to talk about it, and they had to feel safe. And, they had to know that you weren't going to go around saying this, because unfortunately some people do that. Some people let you think you have a safe space, but then they just use that for their own chat and whatever. Oh, this actor, that actor. I mean, you can use people as examples, but you never have to refer to their names directly. Yeah. And then the business side of it, I mean, this is just a suggestion for everyone going into it. You just, like, once a day or maybe twice a week. For me, I really have to tap into this, like, I call it like legal Nourah, who is really not interested in people's emotions or reactions, who's really fixated on payment, schedule, agenda, Even my messages, when I send them off to people, will be like lacking emojis or whatever. I'm strictly to the point because I want to get like this administrative stuff out of the way, because then I want to eventually go back to my artsy side where I get to like develop characters with my actors and grow. And so they know, they know, oh, this is Nourah being on this like admin mode, and
Yeah.
then this is Nourah the director. And I think that's another thing that I could add to professionalism. I'm going to hear this again and write down my professionalism notes. Is not taking anything at face value or taking anything offensively. Just understand that sometimes people are just the way they are, or speak a certain way or behave a certain way because they've got a bigger picture and a bigger interest to like achieve, and they have your best interest at heart, but they really can't tap your your back every second. Are you okay? Please don't be mad at me. Are you okay? I've seen directors do that all the time. They're just like, please make sure he's never mad. I'm like, you know what? He may walk in mad because he's just mad. He's had a bad day. We're not babysitting.
Yes.
We can be empathetic, we can care, but when it becomes diva-like, no, I'm not dealing with that.
Anyway, thank you so much for being a great,
we touched on the heavy stuff.
On the being a guest on the podcast.
You're welcome.
We shall call it a day now.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
I hope I'm the longest one so far, but I hope there's longer ones in the future.
Let's see. Yeah, but I think it was great having you as a guest and talking to you about so many wonderful
and
things.
I'm also the first face-to-face guest.
And yes, she's also the first face-to-face guest in this podcast, and I'm really thrilled to have you today. It was great talking to you.
It was my pleasure, Sahaj.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Take care.